Hi, my name is Livia Turco. I am part of the show Unseen. I am a sculptor and I'm participating to the show with a sculpture that is part of the series Fortitude that stems off another series called Shadow of Images. All my work is part of my personal journey. I started many years ago but only came to light only a few years back. And it took a personal journey, a lot of introspection, a lot of observation and understanding and studying emotions and feelings and observing the world around me, um, what surrounds me and what made my world and what shaped me and what shaped other people and studying the emotions of it. Fortitude is the series I'm recently been working on and what is part of the show scene. And in this series, I study defiance and strength, and it's not the physical strength, but it's the strength of standing up tall and not budging from 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 anything and just standing there and say I'm here and I won't be moving. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. And so I wanted to celebrate it. I wanted to celebrate everyone there to stand up tall and take the blows and be defiant and be courageous, because that is incredible and it's an incredible strength. And very often it's unseen and very often it's undervalued, and often it's women that have to have silent battles and and deal with injustice in complete silence. And so I wanted to celebrate this strength. I want to celebrate the strength of anyone that to go through that, that has to go through that, because no one wants to be strong and having to face it alone. But sometimes we have to do it. We're forced into it, and I wanted to celebrate it. Um, I start this work on my own here in my studio. Welcome to my studio. And I work alone, and I work by myself, just here with my dog Charlie, the kids in company. And I didn't have a model for this piece because it was very emotional and very. I wanted to just go with the flow and following my feelings and following my emotions and that. And when I start a piece, especially a piece like this, I don't really have a plan. I just have a vague idea what I want, a vague feelings that I want to achieve something, but I don't have a specific plan. I don't have a marked out thing where I say, oh, the arms will be here, the head will be looking like that. I start it with a lump of clay. I see where it goes. I feel it in my fingers, and I just follow it. And that gets me into trouble sometimes because I just took the piece to the foundry, and they asked me why didn't I not do certain things that which would have made their life easier, and I had to answer, well, I wish I could, but I don't work like that. I follow the clay and I follow the emotions. So now it's a little bit of troubles. um, but yeah, so I start sculpting, and I am the one starting the sculpture. But the sculpture really helps me working out what it is that I feel, what it is that I want to say. And as I work, it develops, and I cut it and I change it and I chop it and I move it. But it's all very quick, and it's a very focused moment where all I see is the clay, and all I see is what I want to feel, what I feel, what drives me is the feeling. And when I stand back and I look at it, I understand a bit more because the clay informs me. Like as it's taking shape, I see what I want to try to say. I see what it is I feeling. And so I hope when the work is finished and when the work is seen by others, it will take them for a personal. Hi, my name is Livia Turco. I am a sculptor and I'm participating to the show Unseen. I am participating with a sculpture, which is part of my series, part of the series Fortitude, which is part of the series Shadow of Images. All my work stems from this original series called Shadow of Images, and it's a personal journey, introspection, study of emotions and personal feelings, but also society and what surrounds it and what we see and what we experience. So fortitude comes from the feeling of strength, not physical strength. It's the defiance, the feeling of defiance is having to be strong when maybe one doesn't want to be strong. It's having to be defiant, having to be standing up for something and having to feel it. And often defiance is punished, and often defiance is undervalued and judged. And I wanted to celebrate all the strengths that it takes to be standing up for oneself or for anyone, and the courage that it takes to face it and to look straight in the eyes of fear or pain and say, I'm here and I'll stand here and you can't take me away from here. So when I started this piece, I started here in my studio alone, just with my little dog Charlie, and I considered the idea of having a model, but I then couldn't wait. I just needed to start, and I had this feeling that I wanted to start, so I thought, well, I'll start and then I'll get a model. Whilst I find the right model, I'll start it, and then and I was too far into it, and I didn't really want to have a model because it would have slowed me down. It would have, I would have had to adjust my perception to the model, so to the shapes of the model, and it wasn't about anatomical copy. It was about an emotional feeling, and so I did it here on my own, and the more I did it, the more it became clear what it is that I wanted to say, and the more it became clear what I wanted to say, the more it became easier to express it. So it is the sculpture. It is a sculpture that, although I sculpted, I am the one that's sculpting. It's also a sculpture that's informing me. It's making clear. It's taking me by the hand and showing me what it is that I'm saying, what it is that I feel. So I hope that when when a person will see it, the work will take that person by his hand and take it on his own emotional journey, and will bring something out that is meaningful to that person. I just think it can be quite complicated to address the injustice on women. It's, like, I'm here in my studio, and I have a very good life, and I feel a little bit unfair to say, oh, I was pierced from life. Like, the injustice I might have suffered, which are big to me, and compared to other women, is nothing. And so I feel a bit pretentious. But I just want to express that, women have to face many injustice, many battles, and a lot of the battles have just gone unseen, and a lot of women are heroes that never get the glory. They will fight in silence, even a mother that was, fights for her child, or just to be able to feed her child. Maybe that woman is underpaid because she's a woman, or maybe there would be another woman that is going through incredible sickness, or there is another woman that is constricted by society because of the rule of that society won't let her express herself. And so there is many injustice many women will have to face, and some will face in silence, but they're strong, and they're defiant. And I just wanted to celebrate the strength and the pain. I want my son Sebastian to be proud, and seeing the arrows. And my son Sebastian doesn't want to be killed by arrows, doesn't want to be pierced by arrows, doesn't want to have her hands bound, tied. But if that's where life is going, she'll look straight in the eyes of the pain and the fear and the injustice, and will stand up to her. My name is Livia Turco, and I'm a sculptor. I'm taking part at the exhibition Unseen in New York in 2025. I'm participating with a sculptor called San Sebastian, and she is part of my series Fortitude that came from previous series, Shadow of Images. Well, it's a long story. So the story of San Sebastian, it comes from a few years ago, really. All my work, it comes from my personal journey. So a few years ago, I started this series called Shadow of Images, and it was a very introspective journey, and about emotions and feelings. There's a lot of self-discovery and childhood. And from there, a different series came out. One's called Insomnia, which they're behind me now, and then another series came out. It's called Fortitude, and Saint Sebastian, it's part of Fortitude. And Fortitude came because during creating Shadow of Images, I made this sculpture, and this woman emerged really strong, really fierce, and she's defensive and vulnerable, but still looking straight into your eyes. And I felt this is a subject I would like to explore further. And so as soon as I had a chance, I started a sculpture part of the series Fortitude, and is Saint Sebastian. And it came from a time where I felt there was a lot of events, a lot of life events thrown at me, and I felt I needed something to represent that moment. And in a moment of more like a laugh, I said, "Where is my saint? Where is my saint? Where is my Saint Sebastian? Who represents me being pierced by life?" And I was like, there isn't one. So I made it. But on a more serious note, I feel that a lot of women are going through very, very hard times, and there is nothing to sing the praises. There is very little to celebrate the strength of women and the strength it takes to be defiant. And from the woman that might struggle to put food on the plate of her child, or from the woman that faces an different pay rate from a male counterpart, to the women that are constricted by society and the rules that doesn't allow them to express themselves, or to my personal story. And so I wanted to show this woman being defiant, being hit by life, and with their hands bounded with this rope. So their hands bound with this rope, which represent really society and life, that's tying her up and is throwing the arrows at her, but she's standing straight and looking straight into the eyes of straight into the eyes of the, I can't say the word,
Perpetrator.
straight. Mm. So I made a standing up straight, looking fiercely and defiant ahead as she's pierced by arrows with her hands tied, because she's looking straight at the perpetrator and saying, I'm right here and I will not disappear. And you will have to look into my eyes. And she's strong, and I just wanted to celebrate that. Well, I sculpt in a very emotional way. I don't really have a plan. I might have an idea that comes knocking in my head a few times. In the case of insomnia, I couldn't sleep and I had to draw and draw and draw until I came here the morning after and I sculpted it. In the case of Fortitude, she came out of the clay, and in the case of San Sebastian, I made this dog, and then I was like, oh yeah, I really want to make it. So it's more of a feeling, and then I'll come to the studio and I'll make a vague skeleton that holds the clay up, and then as a developer, I will cut it, change it, shape it, and as it forms, it informs me. So the sculpture is actually sculpting my idea. It's informing my idea, and the more I do it, the clearer it becomes. The clearer it becomes, the more emotional it becomes, because I'm being told by my clay what it is that I'm feeling, and 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 it's just a very deep connection between the clay and me, or one, because I've from my from my inner person to the outer person. And I hope, because I made it, because I work with emotions, and I hope, although sometimes it's personal, or as an internal journey, or what I see from society, but what I hope from my sculptures is that when the viewer looks at my work, the sculpture, the piece will take that person by the hand and show them their emotional journey, bring something out for them that they might need to see, or might want to see, or might struggle to see. So that's San Sebastian.